Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Today we're going to look at verses 5 and 6 in Psalm 34. We're going to do Psalm 34 in two parts now. We're just going to go up to verse 10 this week, and then next week we'll do 11 through 22. Verses 11 through 14 make a nice division between the two sections. The second half of the psalm, after verse 14, 15 through 22, is all about the promises that the Lord makes to the believer. Well, here we have some promises too, don't we? David's telling us about the afflicted man. He said there in verse 2, the afflicted will hear and will rejoice. Now we're going to come back to the afflicted man in verses 5 and 6. So let me read those for us. They will look to him and be radiant, and their faces will not be ashamed. This afflicted man called, and the Lord heard, and from all his troubles he saved him. So there you go. That's verses 5 and 6 in Psalm 34. Notice they who? Well, the they there is the afflicted. The afflicted will hear and rejoice, because David in 3 turns to the audience and says, exalt the Lord with me, let's make his name great. And then in 4, he goes back to his confession, I will seek the Lord, he will answer me, and from my dread he will deliver me. They will look to him. Well, the they then must be the afflicted that he mentioned there in verse 2. The afflicted will look to him and be radiant. Their faces will not be ashamed. You see, David understands this because he's been afflicted. And so he understands that any afflicted person who finds himself in that condition, whatever the affliction, however the affliction manifests itself, and affliction can manifest itself in so many ways, well, you just look to the Lord and your face is going to be radiant. You won't be ashamed, because if you're trusting in the Lord, how can you ever be ashamed? This afflicted man called. Now David turns from speaking about the afflicted to his experience in affliction. This afflicted man called, and the Lord heard, and from all his troubles he saved him. Isn't that wonderful? Let me read that to you. That's my translation. Let me read that to you from the King James, because I love the way the King James puts verse 6. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all of his troubles. Friend, do you have troubles today? Do you have trouble on any side? Well, just look to the Lord. David said, this poor man cried. He's speaking of himself. And the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. You see, that could be you, that could be me, that could be, well, you name it. Whatever person will do that, whatever person will look to him in faith and cry out, the Lord saves. He always is going to save. He saved me. He saved me as a young man. This poor man, I could say this with David. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all of his troubles. I had a lot of trouble too, and I was headed for trouble. Just like every one of us who's ever called on the Lord, we know the first time that we called, when we called for salvation, trouble was on every side, and trouble was ahead, because we were looking for the trouble of hell. We were looking to be completely separated from God if we didn't do something before the end of our life. And that was me. I had trouble on every side, and I called on the Lord, and he saved me out of it all. The Lord hears. He hears us when we cry. Have you called on him yet? I know I ask that question a lot, but I do it because that's one of the grand themes that's always in the Psalms, is calling out to the Lord and letting the Lord answer your cry. Are you afflicted today? Do you have trouble today? Well, folks, if you do, there's one place to go. There's one name to call on. And if you call on his name, the Lord will hear, save, answer you, and deliver you out of all your trouble. Join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 7 and 8 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.